Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
How
How are
you
you?
doing? I'm
Good.
great. Now that I found out that your birthday is October 8th and mine is October 7th, and we're both Libras.
I know. Libras unite. Libras unite. I love it.
Totally. And I love the fact that you even just use the wording Libras unite because I say the same thing. It's so crazy.
So amazing. It is so amazing. And I'm not really so heavily into the sign thing, but when you meet someone that you have that connection with, it really does. It makes a difference.
Yeah. And I have to say, we talked about this when we talked a couple of weeks ago, but it was like when you walked into the room at Gina's, or not even room, it was actually her patio area, I guess. I was like, she's cool. I wonder who she is. She seems interesting. And then the simple fact that we were meant to actually meet one another that night. And now that I know you're a Libra, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. The stars align.
That's right. That's
Exactly.
right.
So I'm so excited to introduce Lauren Walker. She is the founder of ParrishLA. She's also the chief creative officer for Rachel Zoe, excuse me.
Rachel Zoe.
And I am just excited for a few reasons because number one, she's one of these people when you meet her, which now explains it because she's a Libra, who's like super charismatic, easy to talk to, but also super down to earth and just humble. She makes it sound like her journey was just, it's like effortless, no big deal. But what I would say is, having also learned that she was one of the founders or co-founders of Brochu Walker, which is this amazing cashmere line that I used to purchase years ago, I was like, oh, you're the Walker? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So we're not just talking about somebody who founded one line, we're talking about somebody who founded two lines, and she's just talented far beyond just design. So
thank you.
yeah, well, I'm grateful that you came home last night from New York after, basically working for intense days, and you chose to still do the interview.
Of course. I was looking forward to it.
I know. Well, we like to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be hard pressed to keep this short.
Oh boy, that'll be hard. So what I want to do is actually first have you take everybody through your background. I know I just said a few things, but honestly, nobody could say it better than themselves.
Yeah.
And I just really find your journey really inspiring.
Yeah. Well, I was born. No, I'm just kidding.
October 8th. Oh,
yeah, October 8th.
And we're both
I won't mention the year.
Exactly. 1985.
Yeah, I just turned 18. Well, I grew up in a house of fashion, and if it wasn't actually the clothes of fashion, it was really having a home styled. And my parents were always very particular about how our home was curated, how our lives were curated. And at a young age, I really learned about that and style in a very unique way, not through having a lot of monetary value to it, but really through your heart. And so I really grew up with that. My parents were madly in love and, just really took us all in. So it was me, my sister, my mom, and my dad, and obviously the dogs of the life. But really growing up, them teaching us about love and being together and connection. And it was all through a creative lens.
Wow, that's
so and I always knew that I wanted to be in fashion, always, from like the time I was a little girl. My father and my grandfather were in fashion, really in the garmento side of things. And I always just knew I wanted to be in fashion. I just never strayed ever. And it's so interesting because I always would think like, God, wouldn't it be interesting to not know what I wanted to do and explore like everybody does. And only the feedback I get back is the fact that you knew what you wanted to do and you've never strayed is so rare. And I never knew that because I thought everybody chooses what they do and they just do it. And I didn't realize how amazing that actually is, that I knew I always wanted to be in fashion. And that's just what I wanted. So
did you grow up in LA or where did you grow up?
I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
And I moved to Boston and I went to college and got any internship and clothing job that I could. I worked in like a used clothing store. I worked in, a trendy store. And then I found the store called Riccardi, Ricardo. And I worked for the most he was this most incredible man. And I worked with him for years. And I had actually done my thesis in college about his store and followed him around as this little college girl. And I was like, I'm going to work for you one day. And he was like, okay. And when I wanted to move to New York, I said to him, can you get me connections in New York? And I was in retail at the time. And so he got me connections on the back end, which was moving into wholesale. And I always really knew I wanted well-rounded experience in order for me to own my own company. And that was the goal. I wanted to own and operate my own company, but knew that I had to get well-rounded experience to have big bucket, small store, retail, wholesale, all the experience that I could to eventually own my own thing. And really that's what I did. I came to New York, went to New York, and I worked for denim companies, for contemporary clothing companies. I started and launched James Perse with James, and worked with Ella Moss and Splendid. I launched a denim company called Earl Jean. Then I worked with Ella Flalo for years and worked with Yaya until she went and created Reformation. So I always call it that I grew up contemporary, and contemporary was the thing at that time. And it was big bucket business. Business was good.
Yeah.
And then when I was pregnant with my second daughter, I was approached by a mutual friend of Lisa Brochu and myself, and hence Brochu Walker was born. And we had it for about 6 years. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Lisa's amazing. I'm blessed to have been her partner. It was a really good, successful story. And when I walked away, I really only walked away because I had learned that my mom was ill. And I had 2 young kids, and I really just needed to kind of just regroup for a second. And my husband was starting something, a company at the time. And I needed to be a mom. And I started consulting.
Present.
I needed to be present. Yeah, I was driving my car to work one day, and I saw my kids going to the park with our nanny. And I called my husband and I said, I have to quit my job. I have to quit my life. He was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm not present. I'm working all the time. I'm running to China. I'm doing this business as much as I love it. I need to be a mom, and my mom's sick. And I need to be home. I just need to be with them. I have to stop. I've been working my whole life, and I need a little bit of a break. So I took it.
What was his response?
He was supportive. I don't know if men, and obviously men and women don't tick in the same way.
No.
And I think when you're a mom and you're not home, I think we've lived in these like social norms, like the mom's home and the man works. And we kind of like took that and like smashed it to pieces. And we said, no, everybody has to be equal. And I'm a career person and you're a career person, and we don't want those norms. Right. And when I wanted to kind of go back to that a little bit for like a beat, it was kind of like, well, wait, this wasn't the norm. You're a worker. You broke that norm. What do you right. You said that you were going to, work, and we're going to work, and we're two, you didn't want that. And now you want that. So I think it took him a minute for me to kind of get my arms around it, and for both of us to get our arms around it. But he was very supportive.
You were creating change.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think, once I got home, and once I was home, and I realized like I'm a really good part-time mom.
Exactly.
My kids were in school all day. I made myself busy. I joined the PTA. I did all these like little things. And then I was like, I gotta go back to work.
You're like, I do not want to be around these people. No, just kidding. I do not want this job. This is not.
So I met some really amazing women, and met some really good, it was a really good time in my life. And I don't regret it for one second. And I started consulting. My husband was doing a business in the fashion world, and I was consulting for all of his brands. And it was really good at the time. I was making a lot of money. I was able to be home. I was very flexible. But you know what, Michelle, I realized I'm good full time. I did not like going and working in a company 2 days a week and being like, okay, we did this whole merchandising thing and we created this whole beautiful thing. And then I would walk out for 3 days and I would come back and the whole thing was changed. And I was like, wait. And they'd be like, well, you weren't here. And I hated it. I hated it. So
It sounds like you like to be part of the process from start to finish, like see
I
it come to life.
I am in the weeds. I like being in the weeds. I like building. I like brick by brick. I love being and training and molding and being in there and growing with people, and we lift each other.
Mhm.
I love that. I get really, really charged from it. I
Me
really like
too.
it.
I love that. I love hearing that because that, to me, that's one of the beautiful qualities of an amazing leader.
I hope so. I hope
Mhm.
so.
Model the behavior, you know?
Exactly. And I think it's really interesting because I think people get into these really good roles and executive roles, but they didn't learn any management training.
Oh, so true.
And management training and knowing how to lead and delegate is really important.
Mhm.
It's like the biggest part of the job because I wouldn't want to have a team that you're like, you just stay there
Yes.
and dictate. I don't want to do that. I want us to be in it together. I want us to sort of, I don't know, if I celebrate, you celebrate. Why am I
Well,
different than you?
you also want to give ownership to people so that they feel that they're accomplishing something and you're acknowledging them for what they're creating. And
Exactly.
I agree with you. I mean, it's a little better now, maybe. I'm not sure. It's been so long since I've been in the corporate world, but yeah, there was never training, you know, and most leaders like became leaders just by default of like, oh, you did a good job, so now you get to go to the next level,
Yeah.
you know, which that's it's funny because that's why I became a coach was I wanted to impact future leaders a long time ago, like when I first started coaching. I was like, I want to do executive coaching because I want to go in and actually help future leaders learn how to lead teams, not through fear.
Mm,
Because
mm.
so many people that work for leaders just think they're supposed to say yes all the time, right?
Yeah. Well, and maybe you're afraid to have a voice, or maybe you don't want to rock the boat or ruffle any feathers. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I have this like I met this girl in New York and she's a salesperson and she's a New York tough salesperson. And I looked at her and we were talking, and her name is Erica, and I'll have her listen to this. But I was looking at her and I was like, oh my God, you're me when I
Mhm.
was your age. She's this tough New Yorker that doesn't take no for an answer. And I just kept looking at her, and I want to like look back on the conversations because I was like, you're me. And I remember my friend Nick Friedberg, when I worked with him for a lot of my career, and we're very good friends now. And he was like, you were relentless.
Mhm.
You never took no for an answer. You were always like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why can't I have what I want? You know? And I'm so much softer now. Like I feel that I don't do that. I feel like I can do it with a little bit of grace around the edges where I probably didn't have that
You're like,
then.
all right, I'll give you a minute and then you could say yes.
Yeah. Or like, what do you mean, please? Yeah. Instead of,
Exactly.
yeah.
What part of yes do you not understand? Just
Right.
kidding.
I'm going to get a yes out of you, whichever way it does. Maybe I'm finessed a little bit better, but I'm still going to get the answer I need from you.
That's right. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, I found Rachel and Roger, and I was pretending that I was happy in the consulting world, but I really ultimately wasn't. And Rachel and Roger came to me through a mutual friend of ours, and he was just like, just interview. Just interview.
Mhm.
I know this is not what you want, and I know you want your freedom, but just interview with them. And as I interviewed in the company, I was like, oh my God, I love that. I want
Mm,
to work with them. And Rachel is like, I don't know, both of them are just incredible. They're just amazing people. And I really felt like I was home.
mm,
And I've been working with them for 5 years, and I've enjoyed every second of it. And the greatest part of it is that there's a lot of trust.
mm.
There's autonomy,
Exactly.
and Rachel's the real deal too. For someone who's grown up in fashion, and I love fashion so much from probably a different lens than she sees it, she is amazing. She knows what she is the real deal. That's all I can really say. And so I feel like I always learn from her. So if there's anything that I'm sort of like, you know, I don't know, torn about, or gosh, I always go back to the root of fashion. I always have done that. And she's always right there. And it's amazing. I feel really blessed.
Yeah, I have to say, even when we talked a few weeks ago, when you described your relationship with Rachel and Roger, it feels so unique,
Yeah.
uh, familial almost.
Yeah.
And like when you say, I felt like I found home. It's just, and I feel that, you know,
Yeah.
and the fact that you said the word trust, right? And I'm sure that's one of your core values is really trust. But what do you think gave you that, you know, the okay to know that it was like this was your next venture?
Um, I think stepping into knowing what I know, and knowing that I've had a whole career in fashion, and knowing that they really needed someone, you know, they were looking for this role, and that I suited it well. Um, but also I am the type of person that I like to get into a company and kind of feel it out. I don't make big moves. I didn't want to come in and now we're doing this. And I'm the type of person that I want to kind of, you know, that maybe it's that Libra mentality of I wanted to see how people operate and where do they really need it and where are the holes, and they allowed me to do that. In fact, that is probably the way that maybe they don't even know it, the way that they work. I've seen people that come in the company and they're like dive in the pool right away, making these big sweeping changes, and we're all kind of like, "Ugh," you know. And I think I walked before I ran. I dipped the toe, and then once I was really ready to dive in the pool, I dove in head first.
Mhm.
Because that's kind of how we are at that company. We really are all in. And so they allowed me to do that. And really, there were no questions asked. And it made me feel really like I could be myself.
Mm.
Um, and we have a really good team, and Rachel really brings in good people, and we have a real good like-minded way we look at people. And you know, they also like they're family people, they have kids, so it made me feel comforted that if I ever needed something for my kids, that they would support me in that. And so, you know, I we talked about this a little bit last time, but when I launched Parrish, it was a capsule,
Mhm.
and I was going to do this one off, and I was really needing to be honest with them, and I wanted to kind of I was starting this job, and I didn't want to have any I wanted to start it off right. And so I sat them both down and I said, this is what I'm doing, and it's a capsule collection. It won't interfere with my job. And I'm a woman, I'm an entrepreneur, and I got this opportunity. And you guys came around at the same time. And I'll do it on nights and weekends. And Roger was sort of like, well, what do you mean? Can we buy it? Can we buy it? Can we buy into it? And I was just sort of like, I don't know. And, you know, Rachel was sort of like, God bless you. Like, that's great, you know, great for you. And when I walked into the room and met with the two of them, overwhelmingly I felt my own mom and dad, and I'm their age, so I don't know why, but I felt there was this, I don't know, it was like this family feeling, and I was like, everything's going to be okay, like everything's
Maybe
going
it's
to
the
be
love
okay.
component.
I know, I think so. I think so. And then, you know, when it came down to it, you know, they allowed me to do that, and then we kind of had that place where we need to sit down and talk about what that all looks like. And they were really supportive, and now we're business partners in a brand that they saw light in, and they saw my strengths from working with me. And that's huge.
It is huge.
Huge. I will never ever ever, it actually makes me feel emotional because I will never take that for granted, and know
Mm.
how special that is. And at the same time, I worked for it. You know, I worked to get to where I am. Nothing was handed to me. And so the fact that they see that, like, sort of, I always call it special gifts,
Mhm.
is really beautiful. And I'll build a beautiful company and they'll be part of it, and they help me and I help them. And I don't know, it just is like a really good relationship, and I feel really blessed.
Yeah, I really feel that you felt seen. You know, it's like it's not that you probably didn't feel seen at different points in your career because obviously you've had many iterations, but it was like an immediate scene, you know, and
And I had to
what
earn
a
it, you
beautiful
know?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean that kind of trust comes because they've seen what you're capable of.
Mhm.
And it's a mutual connection, a mutual understanding of like how you build brands, right? And how somebody becomes successful. So maybe it's an emulation of mirroring each other's gifts.
Yeah, and learning from them. And really, I made a big decision a couple of years back when COVID hit, and I was, you know, in the weeds with Parrish, and had this opportunity with Rachel and Roger to kind of bring it to life in a real way. I literally had a talking with myself. like get your ego out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want this brand to be? And if you want this brand to be this, then check your ego at the door, listen, learn. You have all these amazing people around you. And if you have to tell yourself that 12 times a day, do it.
Exactly.
But I do it all the time because I can sense, I've got that like New York girl in me that I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. But then I'm like, no. Why wouldn't I want to do that? Is just your ego? Is that your insecurities? Like what's talking? Stop it, check it. And now you can resume. And it's really, it's a work in progress, but it's helped me a lot.
I appreciate you sharing that, because today I was speaking with a client on the phone, and we were talking about self-talk and self-reflection and consistently realigning with what you want. And she's like, does the fear ever go away? And I said, no, it doesn't. I said, you just keep addressing it. You keep asking these important questions that give you the guidance, if you choose to listen, for what's next. And that leads me actually to my next question around Parrish, because I feel like with ParrishLA, it's a very specific purpose-driven brand, why you came up with it. And you shared that with me. And I'd love for you to share it with our audience, because it's very special and it's beautiful.
Yeah. So being that I grew up in this sort of fashion home, and my mom always sort of being my fashion muse, my mom, like, gosh, man, she would just like walk in a room and you felt her presence. And she always just sort of taught me these little things of like, feel confident when you walk into a room, and always wear lipstick. Always wear lipstick. And it didn't matter, when she was diagnosed, she had breast cancer and unfortunately passed away from breast cancer, but it didn't matter. She was always done. She was just one of those women that even when she was going through chemo and even being sick and having some really hard times, you'd never know it. She would put her game face on and she would, get dressed and elegant, but flawed at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're all flawed.
Yeah. And she would show us that, there was nothing like, there was no perfection. Perfection is, what's perfection? Imperfection is beautiful. And that was really what our family was all about. So when she passed away, one of my friends had approached me and said, do you want to do this capsule collection in honor of your mom? And I was like, yes. And so given that I've done sweaters before, and given that it was really warm and cozy and that was the vibe of it, I was like, yeah, I really want to do this, but I want to do it. The whole thing's going to sort of honor my mom and my family and kind of the Parrish legacy. And it's funny because when my dad, we had 2 daughters, and he was like, the Parrish legacy is going to go away. You two are all going to like get married, and Parrish is going to be no longer. And now I laugh with him because I'm like, I took the Parrish name, and it's going to be a household name,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so, yeah. And so, so I did this collection and, concepting the collection and really thinking about what I wanted it to be. I had woken up in the middle of the night one night and said, everything needs to be bound by thread. The whole collection needs to be bound, and every piece has to have a signature on it. I didn't know what it was, but every piece needs to have something that's going to bring someone back to family, or have something that can remind them of home, or remind them of where they came from, or that's imperfect, or something that needs to have on every sweater. So I dreamt about this red thread, not anything that was like religious or spiritual, just dreamt about this red thread. And so that's what it is. Every sweater has 6 stitches of a red thread on the right shoulder.
Why 6?
I don't know. That's just what I needed, I guess. At the best part of my life, it was like me and my family and our 2 dogs, and there was just we'd always say the 6 of us. So it was just 6 came to my head. Mm-hmm. And so my favorite number is 8, but 8 was too long. So, So every piece has this red thread that really sort of brings connectivity and love and the thread that all binds us through our lives. So
I love that. That's so
so
beautiful.
yeah, and people have asked me about it, like, what, there's a red thread, do I have to cut that off? Like, what's going on? So it becomes sort of like a talking piece.
Mhm.
And I like that. So that was the start of it. And now, it's a single category sweater collection. And I would love to expand into t-shirts and underpinnings and things like that. I would love to expand into men's. I just dipped my toe
I
into
love
men.
that.
I'll
Mhm.
do kids and eventually home.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. And why so this is my ignorance perhaps because I'm not a designer. So when you say thread, I think of even just doesn't everything have thread, right? And so but for me when I look at it, I define it as like it's a cashmere collection. So but is that's thread too, right? But
It's yarn.
okay, yarn, thank you.
Yep. Yep.
So thank you for the education.
That's okay.
So when you say bound by thread, you're literally just talking about regular thread, like from a spool.
Yep. So in the back neck, sewn in the back neck of each
Mhm.
garment, I'm showing you, but your listeners won't know. But in the back neck, there's 6 stitches
Mm,
and then a red thread that hangs down.
mhm,
And, sometimes I'll even sort of like, I know that it's there. It makes me feel connected. And
mm,
so it's sewn into every garment, but just at the back neck. So it just makes a mark. So if someone wants to cut off the lengthy part, they can just have the 6 stitches and cut off the hanging part.
I
But
love
yeah,
that.
yeah. So that's really what it is.
Yeah, because for me, the whole connectivity component and then understanding how it basically links back to your family lineage, it's like you said, it never dies. It's
Yeah.
lives on. And
Yeah.
your mom's legacy lives on
Yeah.
through all of that.
And it's been amazing. I have been contacted through social media, through emails, through people stopping me saying, "Oh my God, what you're doing is so brave." Like my mother passed away from cancer, my brother, my sister, my father, my daughter, and what you're doing and putting it out there and putting that red thread on there makes me feel connected. I had this woman reach out to me and her daughter's name was Parrish
Mm,
and she passed away from cancer and she found me
mm.
and now we're friends. And we talk about her daughter Parrish and the fact that she reached out and you have a place to talk to people. And I don't know, I think it's just amazing. I think the
Me
whole thing
too. It
could be
actually like
amazing.
it makes me super emotional just thinking about that. And my question is, when when we think about this brand growing bigger and expanding to so many different places, is there a component related to cancer like that it actually, oh, there is. Okay, so
Yes.
is that
So
all over
Rachel
your
has introduced,
packaging?
yeah. So Rachel has introduced me, although I knew of the organization BCRF,
Mhm,
and she's done a lot. Her sister and mom had breast cancer, and thankfully they're fine.
mhm,
And this is something that she always has believed in. So we partnered with them. So we do promos with them all the time. We made a sweater for them with a pink sweater with pink thread for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I've really partnered with them in any way that I can. There's a spot on our site that you can donate to BCRF. I hope to do much more. I hope to
mhm.
really raise awareness of getting mammograms, doing self checks and, having my mom get breast cancer and, having a sister and having 2 daughters.
Mhm.
It's definitely something that's I need to be very
Top
aware
of
of.
mind. Yeah, it's interesting. I was just speaking with somebody else who had a family member who had a different form of cancer and how that impacts their choices and how they address their fears related to it that they never want to impart that to their own children, like releasing that concern or that fear, and how even when you consistently release it, it still resurfaces.
Yeah.
And so is that something that you feel like that you have to address in your own journey?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a good question, actually. Um, Sometimes I'm in this place where you put yourself last in the journey,
Mhm. Yeah.
oddly.
Mhm.
So the mission is really important.
Mm.
Um, the brand is really important. The execution, the creativity of the brand is really important. But actually, now even talking to you, I could benefit from putting myself more in that equation.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Cause I mean, I feel you, you know, in energetically as far as the role that you're in requires so much of you to consistently kind of realign with why it was created, right?
Hmm.
Is so important because it's core to your being.
Hmm.
And the service component of you, because that's who you are, you're a server, you love to help others. Um, Not forgetting yourself in that equation.
Yeah, yeah. And how I fit into that equation, and
Like being
my,
a larger face of that.
yeah, yeah. I think it's really important. I think sometimes I think about my story,
Hmm.
and I think about other women's journeys,
Hmm.
and you know, I go to retreats, and you hold all of these things and things I really want to be part of. And sometimes you'll walk down the street and you don't know, like, women sniff each other out, and sometimes we're not that nice. And then you sit in a room with all these women and you're like, oh my God, look at their story. And
Hmm.
you really relate and connect, and I love that, and I want more of that, and that drives me.
Hmm.
And I think with COVID and working out of your house, and I'm working with all the people that work with me, and I am very driven by the women of my life and the inspiration that they give to me and their stories. And what's funny is that, every sweater in the collection is named after people I know. Every
I love
sweater
that.
will always be named after people that I know. So there'll be a Michelle very soon.
Oh, I can hardly wait.
And I try to make it sort of like, what's your personality? I've been around you. We talk. You need you know, whatever. You need something that suits your personality. So there's always like a story there too. And
I
I'm really
wonder if
driven.
you're able to actually, kind of like how you can design your own tennis shoes, like through Nike. Um, Maybe there's a way that you design your own unique sweater.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
I love that idea
I
because it
haven't
makes
had a
it,
Lauren yet, which is very interesting, isn't it? As we're
mm,
talking about this, I
it is
haven't.
very
And people
interesting.
ask me that, where's the Lauren? And I'm like, I haven't done a Lauren.
Mm.
Yeah,
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know what
And
sweater.
what if you did know, Lauren?
I know. I will blow up and be this massive. Yeah, I don't know. I'll know. I'll get there. I'm not afraid of it. I'll get there. I'll get there. I think. I think. I think a lot of us, as you grow older and as you become and come into your feet and you walk through life and learn and have these experiences, that you're like, you fully walk in and you
Mhm.
fully feel like you're going to be seen. And that's always been a thing for me. I want to be seen. I would always be that girl that, like, I'd walk into a room, and if someone didn't notice me or ask me questions or really be engaged, I wouldn't want to talk to them, because
Mm.
people would always talk to me and tell me their whole life story, and I would always listen, and then I would walk away and I'm like, wow, they didn't ask me one question about me.
Mm.
And I would always kind of be mad about it, but I was like, I didn't show. I didn't show that I wanted to be seen, maybe. I don't know. But now I don't know what the answer to that question is, really, to be honest. I'd love your
Yeah,
input.
I mean, I think those are individual accounts, right? But I think the interesting thing is that I think it's fascinating to know that, like, if someone didn't approach you, that you would approach them possibly, but in addition, that it bothered you. Um, but I think, you're a presence. It's like you said, when we were talking before we got on the call about the young New Yorker woman, or actually we were on the call. I can't recall because there's so many calls. No, I'm just kidding. So, you were talking about the young New Yorker woman, and it's like, you have this gentle strength about you. And I know you know this, that holds such power. And perhaps those women or men that didn't interact with you really were intimidated by you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to get that a lot. You're intimidating. You're intimidating. You intimidate. And I was like, I'm not. If you can't hang, you can't hang. I was like this young, tough New Yorker, right? And now I'm sort of like, I don't know. I am strong. I do have a strong presence. I'm not afraid of being around people that have a strong presence. I can hold my own. I'm not afraid of confrontation. In fact, I welcome it because you kind of like, let's talk, and it's okay. Families fight, but I wonder if the same people would say that about me. My best friends in the world say, you're such a different person. You've softened so much. Everything about you is so much softer. You've grown into your own, and you lead so differently. And it's funny because I had to, like that thing, you have to like own your space, and
you're embodying the whole you.
Yeah. And it's so funny because now that I'm at this age, I'm sort of like, well, I know who I am now. I think I'm getting there.
Exactly.
But I'm also, you still have the same insecurities, and you're also going through all these like hormonal things that's another whole call, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I always think it's like a sick joke, right? That God's playing on us, that like you get to be 50 and you know who you are, and you step into your truth, and then you go through menopause. You're like, oh my God.
You're like, who's that lady?
Why did God why do we have to have the same at the same time?
Women really they layered on. God layered it on for women. I'll say that.
Thank you.
No end. There really is no end. It's like, and it's true. Like, and by the way, even if you take like bioidentical hormones or whatever, it's just like nothing is the same.
No.
And you can't go back. You can only go forward.
No, and so you have to.
But I think this embodiment that you're talking about is it does come with wisdom and age. And it is a beautiful, they say that women in their 50s have their second coming, that it's, men are slowing down and women are really coming into their own. And I see that with so many women. And I would ask, like, what do you think has caused the softening for you?
My kids. Having empathy, I think, versus sympathy. Having had these life experiences that are major. And, my dad always would say to me, like, you are the type of person that when you get down, you get up, you dust yourself off, and you get on the horse again. And I've never known anyone like you. You take a beat, you kind of like, no, gosh, you take a day or two and you're just like down. And you're like, nope, you get right back up again and you do it. You don't put up walls. And I think I've tried to do that being a parent. And the loss of my mother was great. The loss of my mother, like, it was 7 years ago, Michelle, and it feels like it was yesterday. I'm mad about it. I'll never, ever, ever get over it. It changed me as a human being. It changed me how to walk through this world. And I think it did soften me because I'm more vulnerable in different ways. And my dad is this beautiful soul of a man. And, we all just loved her so much. And my sister, my dad, and I just got such different things from her that I'm learning. And instead of being disjointed as a family without her, we've bonded in such different ways.
We saw that in our family too.
Yeah, interesting, right? Because you hear a lot about, like, it just wasn't the same. She was the glue or he was the glue. And yes, she was. But we've just bonded. We found this incredible bond and we love each other so much, and we're flawed. We're so flawed. We're so flawed, but I love it.
Everybody's flawed. I mean, you know, that there is no, like we said earlier, there is no perfect. I mean, and that's actually what I think has been beautiful in my situation. It sounds like you're describing too, is that each person is coming to the table with their flawed, gifted selves, and each person is accepting them now as they are,
Right.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
Because like you said, a lot of families don't do that. A lot of families actually, it separates and then it's over. But it sounds like you all were taught, going back from the beginning of what you were saying, is that you were taught about love. And that being the basis of a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still, even as pragmatic as I am, I'm still like rooted in love.
Libras are lovers, period.
Yeah, I
We
know.
are lovers. We're lovers and huggers. But I do have a question for you. What parts of your mom, like characteristics of your mom, are like you?
That's a good question for my sister, actually. But for me, I'll say my drive.
Mhm.
I guess the way I hold my head high, no matter what, or I
Mhm.
try to, but vulnerability too, showing weakness. When I started Parrish, I just sat down and wrote like she is, like a she is statement.
I love that.
And it was, you know, she shows weakness, but wears it proudly.
Mhm.
And I think that's who my mom was. And, you know, fierce and bold was my mother, you know, and I try to have a lot of that. I think I try to have all that. But yeah, I think that those are the characteristics that I would take from my mom.
Yeah. I see those things in you.
Yeah.
Do you see those things in your designs?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because being that we talk about being flawed and everybody is flawed, and you know, I would come home some days growing up and my mom would have refurnished the whole entire house. We'd be like, Mom, not refurnished, moved everything around.
Oh my God, my sister does that.
It's the weirdest thing, right?
Yeah, it's like an interesting spatial awareness, like needing change. Yeah.
I guess so. And she would do it herself. And she'd be like, come on, just help me before daddy gets home. We're just gonna move this couch right here. And my sister and I would be like, what? You know, like, Mom, we're not strong enough. We're like in seventh grade, like we can't move your, you know, we don't want to. And she would be like, come on, just pick it up. Let's just go. We're gonna move the rug, shift it around. And we'd be like, what are we doing here? And it was so funny because everything was always, and nothing was ever straight. Everything was always like catty corner or off or angled, or something was always off. And she didn't ever want to put anything in the center. And that is exactly how I design.
Yes.
When I look at a sweater, if it's straight up, I'm always like, what can we do to mess this up? What can we do to kind of angle it? What can we do to, you know, like, it's always like, I laugh because it's like, your hair's too neat. Let's mess it up a little, you know, and life is messy.
Life is really messy.
Yeah. And so I do design like that. I do think about what can we make this sweater? Why are they going to buy it from me? Why, you know, let's make it real Parrish.
To me, it feels like it makes it more unique and special. And I don't know, I'm the same way. Like, I don't like anything that is too standard, like that it's predictable. Everything has to have some sort of interesting edge on it, or the shoes have to be, or the accessories different, something, because it's too boring.
Yeah.
And we're not boring.
We're not boring.
Nothing but not boring. Everything but not boring. So I just have a couple more questions for you because we could talk forever. The first question that I have for you that I ask every guest is, what would you say your top 5 core values are?
Ooh, okay. Perseverance, trust, honesty, faith, even though sometimes I wonder about that. Uh, and I guess,
Want my help?
yeah, yeah,
Love.
yeah. I was gonna say love, but I wasn't sure if that's like a,
It's a value.
yeah,
You come from love.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I also think you have a service, you're empathetic. There's a lot. We'll play my values card game and we can have fun doing that with a
I
glass of
would love
wine.
to. I would love to.
With a glass of wine. So,
Yeah.
or something else. So that is one thing. And then my question for you is, what's next? You know, as you continue to build this brand, and you know, we didn't even really get into Rachel and Zoe, other than speaking of, you know, obviously Roger and Rachel, but more, what's next when you're building these brands? Like, how do you actually roll it all out? Like,
Yeah,
what
I
do you
think
do?
this year, I like to set yearly goals. I usually talk to my psychic at the beginning of the year. I haven't spoken to her yet this year. Um, but I feel very like I have a very strong direction this
Mhm.
year. I feel that I have goals to achieve. I really want to. I have a really good partner in Parrish who supports me. His name is Ravi, and he was my manufacturer in Brochu Walker, and our lives and paths were meant to cross. So now he's really an incredible partner in Parrish, and we work together on everything, and we have different skill sets, but everything is really done with him, and I'm very blessed. Um, and so we have very strong goals for this year. We want to grow our company. We really want to. It's sort of like I feel like, you know, your glasses. I want to fill them to the top. I kind of want
Mhm.
to, you know, make sure that the marketing is good, make sure that the email marketing is good, make sure our social media is good, make sure that the design, the aesthetic, the showroom, and everything is really
Like
good.
the
Last year it was
foundation.
really last year it was really the baby, and this year I really see the trajectory of it
Mhm.
growing. With
Mhm.
Parrish, I have a lot of goals in Parrish that I really want to get to at the end of the year that I feel like are feasible. And with Rachel Zoe, I feel the same way. I feel like I want to find my voice
Mhm.
more. I want to be confident in my voice
Mhm.
and um, really set the tone for that, so I can walk with the knowing of that.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think on a personal note, you know, I have two daughters, and my eldest is a junior in high school, and we've talked a lot about what's next for her, what's next for my youngest, but what's next for my eldest is college. So preparing her is really a
Mhm.
big thing to me, and really kind of getting enmeshed in the preparation of her being an independent woman.
Yeah, it is and I do believe that our children, you know, they miss like 2 years of school. So they're catching up a little
Yeah.
bit on that process. So I think that those goals are, I love the fact that you're laying the foundation and that you see the trajectory and that you set annual goals. I mean, you have to when you have a big company, or when you have a company, or and you have investors and every, you know, but regardless of that, it's like you're clear.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to be clear going into the year. And I do love the little tidbit that you actually speak to your psychic at the beginning of the year.
The beginning and third quarter, usually twice a year, I usually
I
speak
get
to
it. I get it. I
her.
feel you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I just want to thank you for your time, and we could talk forever. And I look forward to our drink with one another. And thank you for just showing up as you, as your true vulnerable self, and spreading the love, and really sharing the legacy of your mom and your family. And I really feel the essence of you. It's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot to me, Michelle. I really
Mm.
appreciate it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything you want to share about your company, or either company for that matter, like where they can, you know, look up to purchase, in addition, anything specific about the website,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah, for
amazing.
Parrish, it's ParrishLA.com. Our Instagram is the ParrishLA. And for on the Rachel Zoe side, we have Rachel Zoe Collection, and we also have Curator, which is our subscription box business, which is amazing. And yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, I
Go
love that.
there, purchase, ask me
Yes, go there,
questions.
purchase. But no, just
It's me that answers most of the questions. So I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of questions, and I love every one of them. So don't be afraid to ask.
I love that. I like that you interact with your audience. It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
super fun. All right.
Yeah.
Well, have a wonderful day.
You, my
Thank
love.
you all for joining us.
Oh, thank you guys.